It seems like suffering surrounds us from every direction. We see children being abused by adults, by priests. Looking at the news, we see murders, suicides, automobile accidents, tragedies after tragedy, the tsunami, and things like this, the war that's going on right now. Why is there so much suffering? What purpose does this serve?
Well, it isn't that suffering serves purpose. In other words, you don't come forth intending to enact suffering on yourself or on others in order to have some growth spurt or anything like that. It is a consequence of living in an environment of contrast, and it is also a consequence of living in an environment of free will, where everyone gets to create their own experience through the vibration that they offer. We have to say that suffering, especially in the dramatic way that you have described it here, is mostly a consequence of people who have, at some point, stopped listening to their own guidance system, who are now listening to something outside of them for direction. Recently, Jerry and Esther were in a hotel in Tarrytown or somewhere, always a different one. And as Esther went to take her morning bath, she noticed that there was a sign on this valve that moved this way or this way that said, push it that way for cold and push it that way for hot. And as Esther pushed the valve, she found her personal experience to be actually the opposite of what the sign said. And she thought, it is fortunate that I can tell the difference between a cold bath and a hot bath, because the sign is clearly wrong. And we see so many of you who have set aside your own personal feedback about the path that you're on, where you are listening to someone else's explanation of what you should be doing, when almost without exception, the explanation that they are giving you about what you should be doing is they want you to do something that can change the condition of something that they're observing so that they can feel better. In other words, it's an interesting thing. People sometimes say, Abraham, you teach selfishness. And we say, indeed we do. Because if you are not selfish enough to make sure that you are connected to Source, then you don't have anything to give anyone else anyway. And it's interesting that the people who are accusing you of selfishness would like you to do something different because they selfishly want to feel better, and they believe that you should subvert your selfish desire for their own. We're not really as far off the track as it seems. We're laying a little basis here for you. So the most important thing that we want to say, so many of our physical friends have said to us, Abraham, there is something screwy with this physical time-space reality leading edge adventure that we are upon, because if we are in a place of pure positive energy and then we make our decision to come into this physical environment, why would we come from pure positive energy into contrast that could potentially turn out like some of the things that you have described here? And we say, the intention of coming into this environment and into this sea of magnificent contrast has such a huge basis and meaning, because you know that you are leading edge creators and that you cannot cease expanding. So it's really not about choosing to come forth. It's about the inevitability of continuing to be on the leading edge, where there is variety to choose from. And it is known so powerfully from your non-physical perspective, the power of that variety, because it is known that moving around through that is going to stimulate within you, important you, worthy you, leading edge you, perfect, powerful, personal preferences. So that you get to uniquely conclude, you're like a scout out there for Source or for God that's having exposure to an experience, and a desire is being born within you, a powerful desire that Source in the moment says yes to. How good is that? In other words, the contrast is necessary for the new idea, and the new idea Source says immediately yes to, and so the expansion of this powerful, perfect, glorious world is underway. So then, why, if contrast has caused me to conclude, and you see, by contrast we mean you could just like it to be a little better. You could be living a perfect life and just want it a little better. Or you could be living a tragic life and want it to be a lot better. But whether you want it to be a little better or a lot better, Source is saying yes every single time. There's nothing wrong with that system. We think most everybody would acknowledge that that sounds like a wonderful system where everybody, even the one-celled amoeba, even the cells in your body, even the genius consciousness known as you in your physical human personality, you get to have exposure to these experiences and you all get to choose. And when you choose, Source says, yes, that would be better for you, therefore it is. And in the moment, everything moves into place to bring that about. So the dilemma or the question or the problem isn't that the contrast is giving you the data or the fodder in order to give birth to these desires. The problem is that so many of you are not then listening to your guidance and bringing yourselves into vibrational alignment with your desires. You see, it's interesting. We have to give this to you in a way that will really reach you. Your generation and the generations that are present on the planet today can bang around and give birth to all kinds of rockets of desires that future generations will receive the benefit from because future generations are less resistant to the new ideas that you have launched. But this gathering is about helping you to be less resistant to what you've launched so that you can begin to receive the benefit of what you've launched right here while you're still in this physical body. That's what you intended as you came forth. So you said, I'll go forth and the contrast will be good. It's like the well-stocked kitchen. I might not choose some of it and put it in my pie, but I'm in agreement that it all should be allowed and there's no possibility of ever removing anything because every thought that ever existed still exists. So I'm all right with all of that, and I trust that my experience will give me desires, and I trust that I will be able to tell by the way I feel whether I'm moving towards something that will please me when it manifests or whether I'm moving towards something that won't please me when it manifests. So now you have a world and a media and newspapers and television and all of this influence of media who see it as valuable to scour the world and find pockets of things going wrong and amplify them and dramatize them and put music behind them and bring them to you in your homes and through your papers in a disproportionate manner so that you get a distorted view of the well-being of your planet versus the not well-being of your planet. The well-being is huge, you see. There is so much more that is going well than is not going well. And when you put all of the time of history together, of man and history together, you realize that it is infinitesimal in comparison what has not gone well. But we agree with you. When you shine the spotlight on what you do not want, and you make that such an active part of your vibration that you then disallow yourself receiving what you do want, we can see how it would feel that way. We want you to realize that there is only a stream of well-being which you are allowing or not. And the perspective of Source is that there is only a stream of well-being that is expanding into endless, leading-edge, delicious ways. And the fact that humans here and there, or maybe lots of them, don't allow themselves to receive the benefit of this leading-edge ride does not mean that there's something wrong with the system. It means that somewhere along the way they have lost sight of their own guidance and they're not guiding themselves into the stream that feels good. It would be like making a decision that you're going to take your first trip to France and you're going to go to Paris, and you get there and you travel across the sea and you get out of the airplane into a taxi cab and you go, and the cab driver lets you out and you step right into a recently overflowed sewer. And you say, so this is Paris. And then you get back in the cab and you go back to the airport and you go back to where you come from and you announce, I did not like it at all. And we say, but you saw so little. In other words, you had an experience and you responded to the experience, but you did not allow yourself to have a full enough experience to really see it the way that it really is, you see. So that's the best answer we can give you. We know that there are things that you don't want to see. And we're not saying to you that you should hide your eyes from them. We are in fact saying that as you look at those things unwanted, tragic as many of them are, that in the moment that you lay eyes on them, you give birth to a rocket of desire for an improvement. So that news media is not doing a terrible disservice because they are causing millions, maybe billions, to see and launch rockets of desire, and sources saying yes every time. That's why we get so exhilarated, so worked up in wanting you all to recognize you have no idea of the fabulous future experience that is being held for this planet in vibrational escrow, for you as individuals and for you as mass consciousness, you see. But you can't worry about what the others as parts of mass consciousness are doing. You can only clean up your own vibration. And when you do, you'll live heaven on earth. When you do, there'll be no sign of anything going wrong in your life experience. When you do, people will stand back and say, who made you king? How is it that all things come to you? And you say, I found my guidance system. And I can tell when I'm moving toward something that I'm going to like when I get there. And I can tell when I'm moving toward something that I'm not going to like when I get there. I'm paying attention to my guidance system. And hopefully, through my example, others will learn how to pay attention to their guidance system. We, like you, we would like it if everyone could in this moment and every moment be living a joyful experience. But you know what's really interesting? We are the leading edge through you. In other words, we are source energy having your leading edge experiences. So here you are banging around, and in your discomfort, you launch a rocket and we ride the rocket. So you are providing for us an endless universal ride of well-being, and the reason that you feel negative emotion is because we never look back to the vibration that is you. In other words, we don't allow ourselves to beat the drum of lack. In fact, the feeling of negative emotion is the sensation of you not going where we are, or you not allowing yourself to be in the same vibration that is us, you see. You do not walk into a room and look for a dark switch, because you do not expect there to be some misty, inky darkness that's going to come in and cover the light. You know that there is a resistor that you can put on the light. And in the same way, there's not a source of badness, and there's not a source of evil, and there's not a source of sickness. There is only a stream of well-being, which is being allowed or not. And so the next powerful question, we feel it bubbling within you and many others in the room and beyond. But what about the little ones? In other words, how can a little one have gotten themselves into such a vibrational place that they are disallowing their well-being? And we say, power of influence. Just because they're not talking doesn't mean that they're not picking up on the vibrations. You are communicating 1,000 times more through your vibration and beyond than you are through your words. So the children are picking up on the vibration. Even when they are in their mother's womb, they are picking up on vibration. They're picking up on the vibration of mass consciousness, you see. And so as you understand that everyone is vibrational, and then you also realize that you cannot really do a very good job of evaluating the rightness or the wrongness of somebody else's experience unless you're standing in the middle of it and it is your experience, because you do not know what desires they hold, and so you cannot understand either one of the points of vibrational relativity. That's why you just have to do your best to feel the best you can about whatever it is that you are giving your attention to. And as you do, your world will get brighter and brighter. You won't have access to those things that are not wanted. And some say, oh, then I should put my head in the sand and just not worry about the people that are downtrodden, or the people that are being bombed, or the people that are being abused. And we say, if you could help them by your attention to them, we'd tell you something else. But your attention to what's going wrong in their life only adds emphasis to that and makes it more probable that it will be in your life. But you could look at what's going wrong in their life and let the universe do for you what it always does, which helps you to realize that you would prefer something else. But once you see something tragic and you prefer something else, please turn your attention to your new preference and ride the same wave the source is riding. And you will begin to recognize that this world is as bright and beautiful as it has ever been, more so. There is nothing broken about this world. Everything is functioning perfectly. And we know that's hard to hear when you're standing in the sewer of Paris, but it is our promise to you. Well-being truly does abound.